He's a liar. He didn't graduate from college. He never keeps his word, doesn't know how to treat women. You don't want to be anything like him. His name is Big Jeff, and that happened to be my father. This narrative haunted my memory for years and years until it mutated the affinity a man should have for his father into an animosity that mutated into my day-to-day behaviors where I wanted to be a man of my word. I wanted to ensure that I went to college and graduated and did. I wanted to do everything other than Big Jeff. And then one day when I had finished my second master's, I was trying to get a job. God spoke to me and said, Jeff, my commandment to you is for you to honor your mother and your father. And in order for you to get to the next level of blessings I have for you, you're going to have to start to repair that relationship with your father. So I was obedient, and that day I started to call my father more. And after having conversations with him and meeting with him and being able to experience my father, Big Jeff, this liar, cheater, stealer, hustler, I realized there were things about myself that I didn't know. There was this untapped potential that I had not unlocked. There was this vision for myself that I had not articulated clearly. I didn't really understand my value and what I can contribute to the world. And most importantly, I didn't understand that there was a village wrapped around me that was there to support me. It was at that day in my life that I understood that my calling was to ensure that every young person that grew up in the hood just like me was going to be able to have the access to that vision, that value, that village, and be able to tap into this innate potential that we all call hustle. Now, you might look at the city or the county of Los Angeles and you know that we are separated from north to south by what I call the Mason-Dixon line of quality of life. That's called the 10 freeway. When you cross the 10 freeway, great schools vanish. When you cross the 10 freeway, grocery stores dissipate. When you cross the 10 freeway, police are no longer guardians, they're warriors. When you cross the 10 freeway, the land of economic opportunity is barren. But when you cross the 10 freeway, you also see talent. You see 200,000 young people that are disconnected from the world of work and school called opportunity youth. You see 200,000 young people that are currently costing the Los Angeles economy $330 million in lost tax revenue, in economic burden based upon public assistance. And across this county, you also have over 300,000 jobs that are currently vacant. Now, Nielsen just reported in his last report on economic consumerism of minorities that minority buying power has grown 415% in the last 2 decades. That means African Americans, Latinos, Asian Pacific Islanders are essential to the economy, not just here locally, but across the nation. But when we reverse and think about those 200,000 young people in LA County that are out of school and out of work, over 70% look like that growing multicultural consumer base. So the question to industry and our economy today is, how can you ignore this talent that resides on the bottom half of the 10? And what is allowing you to ignore this talent? And what is allowing this talent not to be able to carpe diem and seize the opportunity that is right in front of them? Well, I'll break that down for you. I'm glad you asked. There are 3 gaps that are actually impeding the progress of this talent base that is in South LA. The first gap is the exposure gap. When you look at South LA and the South County environment, these young people live in lives that's like living in, or communities that's like living in a house with no windows. And we all know that a window allows you to see past a wall or a barrier towards opportunity. The reality is that young people don't see successful folks that look like them on a day-to-day basis in South LA. They may see a teacher, a principal, a counselor, or a caseworker, but not seeing social entrepreneurs. They're not seeing the CEOs of color that look like them. And the reality is that our young people in South LA and other underserved communities across this nation, they become what they see. The exposure gap is plaguing the talent base that we need to move our economy forward. The second thing is the skills gap. Now, interestingly enough, in the work that we lead at LeadersUP, which is a nonprofit focused on bridging the divide between the untapped potential of young people and the business challenge of finding and keeping the right talent, that business leaders across the nation, they do struggle with technical skills necessary to drive their business forward. But more importantly, they struggle with what we call power skills. And power is often refined in communities of color in the hood. Power is persistence and resiliency. Power is an orientation towards goals and action. Power is a strong work ethic. Power also is effective communication. But most importantly, what a community like the hood provides for you is relationships. Power is about ensuring that you're able to collaborate and move a business or your community forward. And that power that I learned back in 2005 when I started to build that relationship with my father is called hustle. Now, the reality of this skills gap is also exacerbated by the fact that we don't have employers investing in our community colleges. We don't have employers investing in K-12 education. Why? Because it's seen as an education system and not a talent development system. The reality today is that businesses must invest in these communities, not just because it's the right thing to do, but it's great for business. It's great for your consumer base, but most importantly, it's a great way to connect to that next set of skilled talent. So there's this exposure gap. There is the skills gap. But the biggest chasm between young people and job opportunities is what I call the opportunity gap. And that opportunity gap actually ensures that a young person doesn't have access to opportunity, not because they don't have the great skill sets, not because they don't know what they want to be, but because they don't have the simple social capital. See, social capital actually manifests itself in our day-to-day relationships. Little Johnny has an uncle who runs a law firm, so little Johnny on the west side has an internship that allows him to prove himself and then become someone who's in law school, and then 3 years later, he is back in that same law firm getting the job. The work of LeadersUP on a day-to-day basis ensures that young people of color and opportunity youth across the entire nation have access to the capital to tell the business community and other employers that this young person is worth it. This young person is not just worth it because they have the power skills, but they have the talent and the hustle that the 21st century economy needs today. And the reality that we are facing today is that it is hustle that showed a leader like me that we can grow from one market to 3 markets across this nation: Chicago, Los Angeles, and the San Francisco Bay Area. It was hustle that allowed us to procure the services of over 80 businesses across the nation that are now pumping job opportunities into underserved communities. It was hustle that also allowed LeadersUP to connect over 1,500 young people in a year and a half to career opportunities. It was also a hustler that poured into a young man named Jeffery Wallace to be the social entrepreneur that you see today. So the reality of America in the 21st century is that we cannot ignore the talent that lives below the 10. We cannot ignore the talent that we need to drive our businesses forward. In America, because your future is in color, you cannot ignore the talent that lives in South LA. Thank you.